Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lana. I'm stepping in for David Yarza today. So thank you for joining us for the May 19th version of Seattle Revit Users Group. With all things changing in the world, we do not have an update for you as to when we will be back in person at the library, but please stay tuned and we will get that information out to you. Moving along for today, we have Topcon Solutions, and Curt Egli will be giving us a presentation on Revit curtain walls. So we're very thankful to have him here to give us the information that we can use to make magical curtain walls and to use them more efficiently. We'd like to thank all of our SeaRUG sponsors for 2021, our 2020 sponsors also. This has been quite a difficult year. And then we have our 2021. So as we start getting back into a new rhythm, we'd like to thank all of these companies for assisting us moving forward. We also would like to thank our board members. And as you see, we do have 2 open chairs. So if you're interested, please contact someone that you see on the list here for education outreach and for secretary. They are both being filled, but a good mix of people would be great. So we thank everybody on the board members for their hard work so that you can have these presentations. Please remember to join us on our YouTube channel. So this will be, this Topcon presentation will be put back up onto YouTube and you can see it there. And you can see all of the videos that we've had. We've got some gems in there for sure. So go through and check and maybe you can find a gem in there that can help you with your workflow. We really would like to thank Topcon for today for giving this presentation to us. And we would like to remind everyone that the 3rd Wednesday of every month, we do have a presentation and our next presentation will be June 16th. And with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Topcon and to Curt Egli. Thank you.
Thank you, Lana. I'm Curt. Let me wait for my screen to show up. There it is. Got it. Curt Egli. I'm a technical specialist with Topcon Solutions Store, and it's my pleasure to spend some time with you on curtain walls in Revit. I had a couple of slides I wanted to chat a little bit about, chat us up just a little bit. Topcon, you've seen our survey equipment all over the place. Guys with hard hats and orange vests out in the field holding yellow stuff with a robot following them around, that kind of thing. It's one of these things that crosses over really nicely in from what we call horizontal construction and vertical construction. I mostly deal with the vertical construction and the things where Revit are with layout with regard to our equipment. So the thing that makes us, I think, fairly unique is that Topcon Solutions is a mix of these two. It's a combination of Autodesk software and Bluebeam, as well as the Topcon equipment. So we can take care of both of those, whether it's service and repair or a store like you're seeing here, or a guy like me doing support and training and the like. We're pretty much all over the place. Of course, Topcon's all over the place, but our stores with Topcon Solutions, there's 180 of us, and we're strewn around in these 20 states and DC. And of those, we've got brick and mortar locations in 13 of those locations. So with that, let me go jump right into the presentation here once. So I just drew a quick curtain wall out here for us, and where I'm planning on going with this is start a little bit with anatomy, just some basic anatomy, and then we'll get into how to control the curtain panel dimensions and how to maintain them with the fight that goes on between the panel and the mullion, and then so consequently then I'll ramp up pretty quickly to mullion profile controls. And then I wanted to work a little bit with non-vertical wall creation because there's some limit. It's a wall, right? And there's some limits on if you want to slant it at all for different for a lobby or a restaurant or something like that. So with regard to the anatomy, there's maybe 4 that come to mind immediately. If you select on the outside, you can see here that it's a wall, and I'm just using the out-of-the-box exterior glazing here. And then if another element of it is the grid, and so I'm selecting on these dashed lines that show up both horizontally and vertically here. You can see there's no edit type with regard to that, so it's pretty straightforward, but it has its own magical elements, which I'll show you a little bit, even though that seems pretty simple. I'm just going to hover over the center here and tap the tab key a couple of times, and then left click to select the curtain panel. And so in this case, out of the box anyway, I use the architectural template to draw this one. And you can see here that it's using a glazed panel, but if you go to the drop down, you can pick other panels, and or in case I forget, you can pick a wall to drop into this as well. And what I've used before here, like on a butt glazed corner condition, where I wasn't get the join to come quite this way the way I liked with these panels, I made a new wall and made it glass and made it the same thickness as the other panels in here, and then replaced the panels that were near along the edge of the corner that came together. Okay, so you're seeing some instance parameters that are associated with the panel here. If you go to edit type on this and drill under the hood, the type parameters within revolve around this offset, finish material, and then analytical properties associated with the thickness, that kind of thing. The other one, if you go to the curtain wall itself, quite a few more instance parameters that we're seeing in the property palette off here to the left. I'll just make that just a little bit wider for you. And then if I click on edit type, more controls. So here's a lot of rules going on under the hood as far as the layout and the like. This one's set right now for a fixed distance for the vertical and the horizontal grid. But if you pick inside that cell and you look underneath the hood, you could put in a fixed number. This is 36 feet. If I wanted it, 4 foot wide, 9 foot wide, or something like that, then you could do the fixed number, and it would change the spacing there. Same thing with the horizontal. I'm going to mostly just deal with analyzing the vertical grid, so we'll kind of keep an eye on that one today because it's the same going the other direction. It's just redundant to do that here. So okay, depending on your design intent, you can decide for yourself where you want that to be. Now the grids that we're seeing here, it actually, you can drop in more if you want. The rules said to place it, what was it, 6 by 12 or something like that. But I can come up here and select curtain grid on the architecture panel, and then as I move my cursor around, you see how a grid is showing up following around my cursor there in the horizontal direction. And if I come the other direction, I'll track along one of the horizontal ones, it goes to drop in a vertical grid. And so now I've got some more grids added in if I felt like it. Also, you should see that I can pick and move around too, by the way. I can pick them up and slide it from place to place if I want, like that. One kind of a magical thing about the panels is if I tab a few times to select, you can see that it subdivided that original panel when I dropped in the grid. Okay, so let me go ahead and back that up just a little bit here. Get rid of those. Okay, now with regard to the grid, the ones that are in here, if you didn't want that where it landed according to the rules, you can unpin it. So you select it and unpin it, and then from there you can move it as well. So like I'm just sliding it up right now, and you can see here, as I showed earlier, the panels have resized to accommodate that. okay, with a zero thickness between panels at this time without the mullion. Now, do be aware that later on, if you say, hey, I think I'll go ahead and pin this where it is, it actually looks back at the rules again and says, which are in the curtain wall itself, it looks at a type on the curtain wall, and fixed distance says, oh, here's where I should be. Right, so then it moves, back again. So if you do need to move them around, chances are you're going to leave it unpinned for the life of the project. Okay, so I might have missed it, but I didn't. I'll probably leave some time for questions at the very end. We'll see how we go on time, but there's a chat window. At least it looks like a chat to me, but I think there's an audience view where you can type in some questions and things like that we can, Diana, one of my colleagues, will be looking over and then maybe present a question or two at the end. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
Curt, I put that into the chat session so that people can know where to put that too, because I know I forgot that. I'm very sorry to have messed you up on that.
Okay. All right. Great. Yeah, I'm not as you can see, everybody, I'm not monitoring the chat. So anyway, it sounds like you guys have that under control. Also, if you look at this, you'll see that the way it's set up right now is the justification is set for beginning and on the wall itself. So you can see here that you can change the justification to end or center. Same thing with the horizontal as well. Now I drew it from this direction, across this way as I was drawing. And so if I expand it with the grips down here a little bit, let me just move it a bit. You can see it's starting to add in panels on that end, not the other end. Same thing here. So the beginning, at least for me, was over here in this corner. So consequently, they'll come back in on top and to the side there, okay? So a couple undos there to move that back again. Okay, now, if you're tracking the dimensions of the panels, I wanted to get into that a little bit because that's kind of a frustration for me. And Lana can attest to this. She was chatting with us a little bit earlier this morning how she did a presentation on Assemble. And you all know Lana, you might want to, she was pretty darn sold on it. So you might want to chat with her a little later on as to her experience there, because I can't cover everything here. We could probably do this for easily a day, but only got like 45, 50 minutes. So, so with that, I made a panel schedule here, and let me just let me put them side by side here once, and then maybe I'll zoom this in just a little bit so you can see. So Control plus, by the way, is how you zoom in a schedule. And as I pull that over, you can see right now, if I can get a hold of it here, geez, there we go. You can see right now, I have a 36 by 36 wall that I drew. So all the widths here are 6 feet, 6 feet. Because like I said, nothing is being taken up by the grid itself is zero thickness, right? So putting in a mullion though, if I hit on mullion and say drop one in just right here in the middle, you can see that, well here actually I should have pointed this out. According to the name anyway, it says that the profile is 2.5 inches and then by 5, right? And so you can see that the panels on either side here, like these guys, if I just pick in the row that'll highlight out there, you can see that it's actually taken away some from the panel itself just to have a mullion in there. So, so we're going to have to make some adjustments then if you want to really have 6-foot glazing in there and not a bunch of weird sizes. There's some things we might have to do. There is on the wall itself, if I go to edit type, adjust for mullion size here. So I want a fixed distance, 6 foot, adjust for mullion size. I toggle it on and click OK, and nothing happens. You look over here. So as far as I'm concerned, maybe I'm missing the boat here or something, but That didn't work worth a hoot. So anyway, maybe there was some other reason for it. Actually, okay, so they actually say when possible, it will do that. So I don't know, maybe that's part of what it is. So I might have to change the spacing on this, right? So let's see, let's do this. Let's go back to edit type and say spacing. We're 2.5 inches short on this, so 2.5 inches there. And I'll just go ahead and place them all on the interior type to use that one, so not worry about the ends right now. That's a whole nother ball of wax a bit. And then let's click OK on that. So I'm just giving a little extra there, and then I click OK. And you can see here that some of them have gone back to be 6 foot, right? The ones around the middle that we were concerned with, but now here on the end, now I'm short, right? So a little bit of quick math here, pick on this. I'm actually going to have to extend the wall out, so like 37, and I guess that'd be a 1/2 inch, I guess is about right there. Let's see. Ta-da! Indeed, and now they're all 6 feet. So if the mullion is going to take up part of your panel width, well, then you got to adjust that, or just plain decide that you're going to have little narrower panels on it, okay? Okay, now we got that. So let me go ahead and close out of this once. Okay, what I wanted to do next with this is work on these mullions a little bit and take a closer look at it. So let me see if I can tab through and select one of these. So I'm just going to orbit around just a little bit here once. So here's the one. This is the out of the box from Autodesk one. That's the 2.5 by 5 inch mullion there, 2.5 by 5 inch rectangular mullion. And it is indeed just grabbing everything in that it can get its hands on here for the width of itself, right? But I thought maybe it might be interesting to try this one right here. Let me wait till my screen catches up here a bit. I'd like to get a butt glazed mullion profile working here. Okay, so maybe I can sketch over the top of this a little bit. So right up here is would be my shape, right? Like that, because there's a profile underneath the hood that drives this. Let's see, now I'm getting a little crude with my drawing, but I'm going to want something that looks like this to accomplish this, so that the glazing goes past the mullion edges, and the bulk of the mullion is on the inside of the building, right? Makes a pretty clean look is what this manufacturer is attempting to do, and I'd like to mimic that if I could. So let's start with, I'm not going to take the time to draw one up, but indeed, I've done one for us already. So let me just go ahead and call up the profile that I'm going to use here with the next step for this. So here's what it looks like when you get into the mullion. Autodesk gives you into the mullion profile. Autodesk gives you some pointers. Exterior is going to be out here, Curt. Interior is going to be over here, center here. And then here's the part that is maybe kind of the tricky part for me anyway. Curtain panels are trimmed to where the profile sketch intersects this thing right here. So where it intersects that, they just drew, whoever made that profile some time ago, that 2.5 by 5 inch, probably was in there, in the first release of Revit or something. They went over this line. So for me to achieve something that's closer to what we were looking at here in this photo, I'm going to have just a little nubbin stick out that's, according to the manufacturer, it was 3/16 of an inch. So I made the profile lines 3/16 of an inch here. And then here's the part that I had to do. Let me get in closer so you can see. I stayed off that green line by the minimum allowed by Revit, which is 100, let's see, 1 256 of an inch. I pushed that back in the profile like that. That way it didn't intersect it, because if the line comes down here and here, for example, that's how far the glazing will back off. Okay, so I want to get it in there fairly far. So I'm just going to turn around and load into this project and close it. Okay, now the mullion itself, if I click on one of these, this is the rectangular mullion, 2.5, rectangle, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go to edit type on it, and this will affect all of them that I've already put in here. And I'm just going to overwrite this one. Normally, I probably would choose one that I'm not using. Well, I'm not going to use this one, so I'll just do a rename on it. And maybe I'll just call it glazing, something like that. Okay, but glazing mullion. And then this is the part right here, is the profile that's being used is the default, which actually is the 2.5 by 5. And here's the one I just loaded in, the 2 by 4.5, blah, 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 okay, that I made. And I already know I'm going to have to back it off just a little bit. You have to adjust how far you want it in either location here. There's a couple places to do that, but I know I'm off by 3/4 of an inch here. So I'm going to just push it forward a little bit so it butts up against the glass, but I had to tweak around that to know what that number was. So nothing magical there. And click OK, and it'll go through and substitute all of these. You can see they got substituted out for the new one that at least I consider to be improved. Okay, so and there's how we did that. And consequently, the glass, it's not going to be 6 feet now. There's 3/4, 3/16 of an inch off or something like that now. But you already know, as I showed a little bit earlier, how you can adjust that. Okay, so with regard to these panels, let's move on to that ones. This is these panels that we're looking at are glass, right? Or glazing anyway, virtual glass, right? They don't have to be that. As I was saying earlier, I could make this brick if I wanted to, just come up here and say be brick instead, and it'll put brick in there. But this is another one of these that if you select on the wall and you hit edit type, you can see that this is a system family, right? So out of the 3 different family kinds in Revit, which are system families, loadable families, and in-place families, system families are the ones that are created by Autodesk and contain magic. That's what I always say, magic in the in the system families to do something interesting. Drop in a door, the wall opens to receive the door. You slide the door down the wall, and the wall heals itself and opens up in a new location to receive the door. I mean, stuff like that, right? So, but there's no edit family button up here on something that's a system family, but it's a play between loadable families and system families. And the profile that we saw a little bit earlier was used there. We can actually decide what we'd like to be going in for the panels too. So for example, let me open up a sample file that I got from custom. This is from an older Mastering Revit Architecture book. I don't know if they still have these days. It's called their book is called Mastering Revit, 2022 or whatever, probably by now. But this was Van de Zand, Kriegel, and Reed wrote this one back then, and I thought it was a good example of different kind of panels that could be in here. Like if I tap to this one. Let me see if I can get it. Let's see that one. So yeah, here we go. Glazed panel with spider, right, is on that one. And then up here, I think this is a different one. Yeah. Glazed panel with spandrel, right? So you can swap these out. And what I'm talking about, like, I won't take the time to open this one up in the family editor, but here, do like that. You can see that, the edit family button is up here. In this case, they did a nested family, so they nested the spider in with the other panel here in the family editor. And I wanted to work a little bit with the louvers on this to show you how that would go into play here. So let me go ahead and open up a family once that is the louvers. Let's say okay. By the way, I'm working in Revit 2022, which if you're watching this 3 years from now on YouTube or something, you know, this is our current version that we have right now, 2022. Everything I'm doing here so far, anyway, you could do in 2019 or whatever you want. There's nothing that has changed with regard to this. I'll show you one thing that's a new thing in 2022 that can help you when it comes to curtain walls. So here's a louver family, right? I'm going to go ahead and load that one back into my project here, close out of that. So now that one should be available to me. So if I come here, I select one of the panels, I can swap it out for, in this case, the curtain panel louver that I dropped in. You know, and for that matter, maybe I'll change the number of slats on this down to 16 or something. Right. So if you have a mechanical level on a high rise, and you probably go through and swap out all of those panels for louvers if you want to. You've seen that on the side of buildings. You've probably done some yourself that way. Okay. All right, so there's that. Let me try a different set of exercises here once. Let me close, and I'm going to open up. Let's see that one right there. Let's open this one up. Here's a. If you want to, if you're in a position where you need to have a curve, right? You can see here I've got a curved surface like this that rolls around. With that, so I go to wall and exterior glazing. I'm going to use the pick lines tool to make this easy on myself here, and go from here to there to there. You know, so here's 3 separate ones that I just created. And if we maybe I'll go to the 3D view here once. Here, I'll just go up to the doghouse up here. I don't know what it's probably supposed to be a home, but it looks like a doghouse to me anyway. So I'm going up to the doghouse and to take a look at what we've drawn. You know, so now I have I've got 3 curtain walls in here because it's 3 separate arcs that I'm working with. And part of the issue with this is, here, let me select these. Maybe I can isolate them for you. It's kind of hard to pick on, to know what you're picking with the curtain wall, because they really don't highlight very well when you have them selected, right? So let me just do an isolate on here. Isolate elements here. Okay, so now you can see a little bit. You can see a little more readily. This wall here, for example, that we were using, if I go to edit type, it looks kind of fairly even because we got a little bit lucky with the arcs here, but it's set for, in the vertical layout, it's set for maximum spacing of 6 feet to make it end very nicely at the end of each one of the arcs. But if I did a fixed distance on this and said, okay, it won't look too much different. But if you zoom in to where the 3 come together, like this one and that one come together, you'll see that actually it gets kind of rude, right? There's my math isn't quite right. The length of the arc divided by 6, not working so hot, right? Same thing at the next one, right? So on and so forth. So that in itself was maybe one of the problems with regard to this, but with some gyrations, with some math and a little bit of a change to your design, probably you can overcome that to where you get even spacing. I wanted to show you a different approach that we might take with a curtain system that might solve some of that for us. And at the same time, I'm going to I'm going to work with a tilted wall to get this done. So I'm going to use a surface and then apply a curtain system to it is where I'm going with that. But actually, I said that there was something new that was in Revit 2022. If you just have, well, as long as your project's in 2022, you would have this capability. But, you know, if you're, you know, I'll just draw maybe an 8-inch generic here so you can see it a little bit easier. Same thing is true. You know, I'll draw a curtain wall too. Here, let me draw another one in here. If you're fortunate enough to be working in 2022 on your project, then you're going to be able to do this too, right? So here's the curtain wall. It's kind of thin. You can barely see it probably. And there's the little fatter one. Here's what we can do in 2022. You pick on a wall, and the cross section, I'm over here to the left, and the properties palette, the cross section is set for vertical, except now I can taper it if I wanted to. That's not part of this presentation, but you can taper, just so you know, and slant it. That is part of this presentation. I'm going to get it slanted, and then a new parameter, instance parameter, showed up underneath that one that says, well, Curt, what would you like the angle to be? And I'm going to say, you know, 11 degrees. You know, boom, there it goes. You want it to go the other direction, you put a negative on the front, because it's 90 to 90, negative 90 to positive 90 for the tilts. Same thing here. But it's a little harder to see, I guess, because it's, you know, 1 pixel wide just about here, right? So I'll slant that one the other direction. So that in itself could just fix some things for you, you know, like if you're needing to have, you know, say you got a brick wall that comes up, you know, 3 feet, and then from there the restaurant glazing goes backwards a little bit. You might be able to just do it here and not have to do this next step that I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it. So let's, oh, you know, because here's the deal. If, you know, like, say I hit a couple undos here, I'm going to get this back. Say if you haven't figured this out already, hey Curt, why don't you just rotate this? Well, here's the rotate from here to there. Okay, rotate from here to there. No, okay, it doesn't work. Okay, that's the deal. So okay, let's try this then. I'm going to go to a different model. And we'll do this getting a curtain system onto a surface here. Okay, so that same hotel or one similar to it without a surface. I'll open that one up here. And this is the file sometimes I use when I'm teaching Revit Architecture Essentials, and from Ascent. And you can see here, this is the one I did earlier, but I had, using the same one, but I had the curtain wall be totally vertical, so it was in right up here next to the column here, or, you know, at the end of that wall. This time I'm going to start it out here a little farther and then back it up. So it will be, as I go up like this, it'll actually be sloping. So what actually is going to create a bunch of trapezoids out of my my glazing panels, because it'll be a shorter distance at the top. Let's give it a try. Okay, let's go to the first floor plan view first here. I drew some model lines out here so that it didn't take me forever to futz around with this thing. But if you issue the wall command that we've been working with, whatever it is, glazing or whatever, and if you take a look up here at the tools that we can use when we're working with the wall, there are arcs there, and several different kinds of arcs that we can do, and ellipse, but no spline. And that's part of the issue here with this, because we're when we're working with this particular configuration, we're going from convex to concave. And so now we have to have 2 arcs to get that done, which means there's 2 ends to the wall. So your end conditions become butted, because when you put in a, like if I go wall, let me zoom down a little bit closer here, exterior glazing. If you go to edit type, for vertical and horizontal mullions, if you're putting those in automatically off of the type properties of the curtain wall itself, then the end conditions, the border types, it'll put one in for that one, and then for the next one over, it'll put one in for it, and got double, right? And so you can delete one of them, but then the glazing, the panel will expand out, and so then you got a size difference and stuff. Okay, just so on and so forth. So we'll try something just a little bit different here, and that is to create an in-place mass. So I'm over here under the site, massing and site tab, and I'm going to say create an in-place mass. Okay, it says, hey, Curt, I'm here for you. So we're going to show mass mode so that your stuff will be visible. Thank you. Okay, so I hit close on that, and then I can give it a name. So maybe I'll say sloped curtain system here. Slope curtain system, or you just leave it mass 1 if you want to. Okay, we're in the mode. Okay, now there's a green check mark, red X up at the top. One of these where you guys have all seen this before. They want you to, not get distracted and finish what you're working on here. You can answer the phone, you can have coffee, but you, can't go around placing beams and columns until you get this done or cancel out of it. So, but if you look at the tools up here, let me zoom in a little closer here for you. Look up at the tools here. We got our arcs and pick lines and line and stuff, but there's 2 different kind of splines up here too. And I'm going to be using this one right here in this case, just because I like the control of it. It's a spline through points. And so I'm also, you take note too of the placement plane. I'm actually in the first floor, so it's going to put it on first floor, but you can do this from, you could do the top of it from the first floor if you felt like it. So I'll just kind of snake along here. You can see it's making a spline shape coming off of here. It doesn't really matter about those arcs that I put out there, whether I hit the ends of them or not. There's nothing magical about the number of points I'm putting in. I just thought maybe if I put in, 15 or 16 or something like that, it might make a kind of a smooth control on it. And then finally, I'll hit the modify to get out of it. Now I got the bottom done, right? But I got to do the top next. So I'm going to go up to a different level and where I have another little green line out here. You can see it here to guide myself along, but I'll just clumsily make my way along the same way here. And you can see here the placement plane, because I opened up that floor plan view. It says level top of surface. So I'm going to, at least let me get it on the end of it here. Okay, there we go. And then there, I won't be too picky about this just for time constraints, but if this were my real baby that I was building, that I want to be proud of, hey kids, look at, I did that, as we drive past the building later. You guys have all done that, like that. And then hit the modify to end that one too. Now you can't hardly see them at this point, but hopefully they're in there, right? So let's go back to the 3D view here once. There it is right there. Okay, now we're not done, but there's the spline that I laid in 3D. I guess I should wait a second till your screens catch up a little bit here. I'm going to go ahead and select on it so you can see a little bit easier here, and use, once again, the temporary height isolate. I'm going to do the isolate category here so you can see there's the other one up here too. Okay, and I'm going to select both of them and create form, create a solid form. Okay. So that's kind of step number 1, basically, to do this. And now we have that film showing up there that, Revit told me earlier, we're going to go ahead and make this visible for you, and you can kind of orbit around here and see what it looks like. And then finally the green check mark or maybe I'll take the reset temporary height isolate off and then finish. Okay, and it warns me, it says that the mask contains only mesh geometry, so you can't compute stuff off of it like surface area and volume, at least not right now. But you can see it kind of highlighted in kind of a reddish there a little bit. Maybe if I go to hidden and select it again, you can see more readily where it is. Okay, so it kind of, it's sloped, right? It's not much of a slope, but you can see that it slopes back and it gets kicked out at the bottom. And then the other point of what I was doing here was that it also used a spline, so there's only one end to it, well, two ends to it, right? They're beginning and an end, right? As opposed to three separate arcs strewn together. Okay, so applying a curtain system, that would be the next thing that I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the Architecture tab and Curtain System. That's one of the choices there. Go Curtain System. And then I'm checking 3.5 foot by 7 foot 2. That looks pretty good. I think I'll go with that one. And I'm going to select that surface. And then I'm going to come up here and say create the system off of it. And the donut spins for a moment. And there you go. We got the grid across the whole thing there. And then I'll hit the modify button so it doesn't create anymore. They were assuming you're going to go around your building surface after surface doing this, so it leaves you into the command here. Okay, now I'll come back to mullions one more time here before I'll finish my presentation once. But if I go to mullion, before I had just added them one grid line at a time. You don't need a surface to do this. Or you can just say all grid lines, which is a beautiful thing. And you can see here that one single click is going to go across the whole shoot and match here, though. So click and donut spins. And wait for it, wait for it. That's a lot of mullions, though, right? Now it's saying down here, Curt, some of those curtain patterns are slightly malformed. Like I said, we're making little trapezoids here, right? We got some weird stuff going on with trying to throw two of these things, the curves plus the slope into this thing at once here. But this is just the low-level warning. It's let me through on this. So, bit of a whirlwind tour, right? We went through. I'll get up to this. We went through the basic anatomy and then how some of these can be controlled. I had a special request prior to putting together the presentation to take a look at this whole, how to get a better handle on the widths of your panels. That was that whole thing with the spreadsheet, the schedule that said 6 foot, 6 foot, 6 foot kind of a thing that I wanted to do. And then a little bit on the mullions as far as how to control that and how with the where the glazing or the panel at least will stop. And I showed you a little of that. And then we looked at the tilting of a wall, in this case, a curtain wall. That we were looking at, and then a different way you could do it, even if you were in 2021 or before, using a surface and then applying a curtain system to it. So I got our phone number up here and an email address if you want to get a hold of us, especially if you're watching this 3 months from now or something like that. And you can shoot us a shout out there. Does Diana, have you been tracking any questions there? It's quarter till. I have a time for a few questions, and not that I have time for, not that I'm going to give you the answer, but I got time for questions.
Hi there. you, Curt, so much for that presentation. At this time, we do not have any questions, but if anyone has any, please reference the questions pane on your GoToWebinar control panel, and feel free to insert any that you might have there. Otherwise, at this time, we do not have any.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. And happy Reveteering.